Hi guys, welcome back to the EPL Showdown. We have now concluded with the season, as a result of which we will be reviewing the entire season. We will be reviewing Manchester United season. So let's get right into it. Manchester United, first off, they started with the season with buying Harry Maguire. They bought Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and they had notable exits as well in the form of Romelu Lukaku, Ashley Young, Chris Smalling, and Ander Herrera leaving as well. So first off, they started with a solid win versus Chelsea. Then they went on to win probably, I guess, 3 wins in around 12 games till Christmas period. Then they had a very up and down Christmas period. They won against City and they had a win against Arsenal as well. Then came Bruno Fernandes in January and he turned the full United form in the favor of United. Since Bruno Fernandes joined, Manchester United has just lost a single game that was against Chelsea post restart. Bruno Fernandes has actually been the stimulus, I feel, to Manchester United's top four drive. At the point of January, Manchester United were 14 points adrift of the top four, and they managed to finish third. Obviously, that is due to other teams misperforming as well. So here we have with us a very special guest, Karan Bhatia from NUSC Goa. We have Vinamra Sarogi, who supports United. We have Jeet Shah from Chelsea, and I, Jadon Fernandez, I support City. Let's go. So, Karan Bhatia, I
Yeah,
mean, how would you describe United's season?
I think I'll use a couple of words, and I think the first word will be a bit, I would say, lucky. I think we were lucky to finish third. The lockdown just came at the right time for us. Second one has to be inconsistent because we managed to finish third, but we are what 33 points behind Liverpool, 18 behind City. I think we were nowhere till end of January. We were nowhere. I think we nobody expected us to get top three or get top four. So I think two words, yeah, lucky and inconsistent. But I'm happy post lockdown. I think we have really stepped it up and we managed to finish third. That's a positive. Need to build upon this. I mean, we cannot just rest on this.
Do you feel the Pogba injury, which was there in around September, was that a key factor to United's downfall till January?
I think see the downfall started in the window itself. We should have bought a midfielder because even when Herrera was at the club, we still needed a midfielder since Fellaini left. And guys like Andreas, he isn't the quality that we're looking for. I think Fred was in a very, in a bad space last season. So, I mean, him coming good was a plus, but I think Pogba's injury just magnified those issues because you take out the biggest playmaker at that point in the side. So we had really no creativity, no spark in the midfield. And luckily, maybe I think guys like Matic and McTominay, Fred, they stepped up at crucial parts. But I think the problem was in the window. We should have bought a midfielder as well.
Yeah.
Do you feel
Uh,
that?
I've got a question for both of you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
Like, I want a very honest answer. So, like, before the season started, what was your realistic prediction for the season? Would you have said that top four was definitely a must, given the players that you signed, like given the sort of promise young players like Martial and Rashford were showing? Would you say Oli getting top four was an overachievement, or would you say this was something that I expected at least from him before the start of the season?
I'll say I was not really confident of top four because we let Lukaku go, so that was like close to a 25 goal striker being taken away. Right, we had Sanchez misfiring, and we did not replace any of them. I mean, we put a big gamble on guys like Greenwood, Martial. I was expecting maybe a top six, a Europa League finish, and the way we started that season as well. I mean, it looked like a huge mountain to climb top four. So for me, I think maybe fifth. I think fifth would have been a realistic prediction for me at the start of the season. Top six was my prediction at the start.
Yeah, but
And
uh,
yeah, I mean, just since you asked me also, so I mean, when I saw the signings, I was very happy that finally a Manchester United manager, is addressing what we are lacking, and that was probably our defense last year because we had a 35 or 30. 3-year-old Ashley Young playing at right back, and we didn't really have a solid, consistent defensive partnership. So, on the defensive side of things, I was very optimistic. I was hoping for a much improved performance from us as compared to last season. And I saw the preseason as well, so I was pretty excited by what was in store. And that excitement was like it replicated. I mean, it replicated in the first game, like 4-0. But then, um, so at that time, I was like, yeah, we have a chance. We have the squad to finish in the top four. But I mean, as this season went on, as Karan rightly said, we were very inconsistent, and our injuries were not on our side. We kept getting our most important players injured for long periods of time. So at that time, I would happily take a top 6 finish.
Yes.
So that has been probably a story of the season.
Yeah, so like given how much you have laid importance on squad depth and injuries playing a huge role in your season, would you think that Oli should have rather spent that 200 million on more players, or do you think the board didn't back him enough in terms of getting more players? Because obviously, if you look at this United squad, you've barely got a bench. If you're being honest, like your bench strength is something that is lacked, and probably a stronger bench would have helped you throughout the season of replacements for Pogba when he was injured, or you know, a more creative winger or an attacking midfielder. So do you think Oli got it wrong in terms of spending his entirety of his budget purely on defense, or do you think the board didn't give him enough funds?
So, if you don't mind me, Karan, I'll answer.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Then you can add on if you want anything. So, how I see it is that yes, last year we finished 6th. Okay, so he tried to close the gap on probably y'all, say Chelsea or whoever. I think a Spurs or an Arsenal by trying to. So he as I said earlier, that he tried to focus more on the defensive side of it, because last year we conceded about 43 to 45 goals a season, and that's not a top 6 side. Which I mean, that's not you can't concede so many goals and expect to.
We've conceded 59 this season, though.
Yeah, I mean, for how I see it, I mean, 45 goals, 40. I don't think it was even 45. I think it was in 50s only or something like that. And so I think on that side of it, the Harry Maguire deal was probably an overpriced deal. But apart from that, I think Wan-Bissaka was a must. We needed someone. We needed a right back. We needed a centre back. We needed a commanding guy who will play 38 games a season as he did this season. And so in terms of that, I mean, he's got the defensive side of it very right. And I mean, Bruno Fernandes there was a lot of talk of him coming in the summer as well, but for some unknown reasons, Woodward couldn't get it over the line. And as Manchester United is reputedly known for giving youth a chance, for signing players from Premier League and from who are not very well known, but they possess extreme talent and pace. So I think Dan James fit that criteria very well. And to be fair, I know people don't agree with what I'm saying, but I feel that for his price tag, he has justified it, and he is a confidence player. So I mean, he needs a run of games, and people forget that he's played most of the season out of his position. He's played on the right side when he is a left winger. So for a right winger, he has amazing stats, and probably he's come from the championship, so he needs a little more bit of integration into the team, and he can fully justify or probably overplay than what we would expect him to.
So you really think like Dan James has a future at the club?
Yeah, definitely I do, because I mean, you can't judge a book by its cover. You can't judge a Premier League player who's come from the championship in his first season. I think you're trying to say he doesn't.
I mean, he showed
have the technicality
during the start when he scored like a couple of, I think 3 goals he scored in the first few games, and he was showing like one of them was a really good top right finish from what I can remember. But thing is, like his form dropped so massively, and I think he's finished the season on just 3 league goals, if I'm not wrong. So
he's finished.
First was it, and ever since you've had your strong, like preferred starting lineup come back, he has been nowhere near to being even used as a sub. Like I see him coming on in the last 5-10 minutes just to give rest to your preferred starting 11 players. So like his form has certainly dipped, and like I feel I honestly don't really see him having a huge future at United apart from being a bench player. Because I feel if he really did, he should have shown more than what he did. That's just my opinion.
Karan, you want to take that?
Yeah. So I think with the first of all, I think Vinamra just he hit the nail on the head, saying that the defense was a major concern last season. Like 54 goals we conceded last season. So obviously we had to spend on the recruitment, and I think Leicester just they knew that we were desperate for a centre back signing, and I think English players are uh,
Yeah,
always overpriced, overhyped.
True,
So I
true,
think
true.
80 million or whatever we spent, we had to. We had no other options really. With Van Bissaka, I think we had to get him. He's improved that defense a lot. I think he doesn't get enough credit as Maguire maybe. That is fine. Dan James for me, I think right from the start, I've been saying on my social media, interactions that I never saw him as a player who's going to play 50 games a season, from the
Exactly.
start.
Yeah, yeah.
So we were shocked. I think I was particularly very shocked that he scored 3 league goals by September. I was not expecting him to have those kind of goals, and he finished with what I think 6 assists in the league, which is not bad and not amazing, but for a guy from the championship and to coming to such a big platform, it is a okayish, I would say, season. I think we should not really be giving like having a lot of expectations from this man because he's still very young. I still believe that he has a lot to learn because by the end, I think if you saw the FA Cup semi, he played as a second striker. I mean, at the end, I think he's been put out of his depth a little, and I think just give him time. Maybe for me, it's at best a squad player for me, not a regular starter. And if we get Sancho and the way we have seen Greenwood, mature, I don't see him having outstanding future here. Maybe on the left he can be used when Rashford needs to be rested. If we are going to play Martial as the striker, so there's a decisions to be made, or maybe he can do with a loan spell as well. I don't really mind a loan spell for him at this point of time. And as the question started with, the signings were they adequate? As I said, we lacked a midfielder. I think the striker gamble worked in the end, but I think we really lacked a midfielder, and that's the reason I think we are when we are going for guys like I think Van der Beek and all of these guys. It shows the desperation that we need a midfielder who can provide depth.
yeah, agreed. So like you're talking about Sancho and Van de Beek, like there's been a recent update which shows that the Sancho deal is looking very, very likely to be happening for United. So I would want to know your thoughts on the same because I have obviously Sancho is a world class potential player. He's going to command a huge fee, and he's a generational talent. So he's going to improve you massively, especially when you've always needed that sort of right winger in your team or left winger in your team who's like more like a conventional winger and like brings you numbers. But given the pandemic that we are in right now, and given the fact that teams' budgets have been tightened a lot, would you recommend splashing that huge sum on single player when squad depth is your major problem right now? Because if you sign Sancho, I don't see United signing 4 or 5 players. I see them signing 2 or 3, and the rest will have to be probably cut price deals because you don't have an array of sellable assets at the club right now as well.
I would say with Sancho, what I've been reading is I think it's a deal which is to be done in installments. So we're not paying all that 90 million upfront. I
Yeah,
think it's an installment based deal. So I think that is the only I think issue that has been keeping this just stalling this deal. I think today when Fabrizio tweeted it, I think that was an indication that an installment deal is under progress, 90 plus 20 in add-ons, something like that. I think so that helps us in not splurging a lot on Sancho. Maybe I think what I'm reading is 60 million upfront. So that
that's a
still saves us
bargain.
30 million.
That's a huge bargain.
So that's 30 million. That's a 30 million discount straight away. I
Yeah.
think what I've been reading as well is we are looking at close to 6 departures at least. Guys like Rojo will leave permanently. Smalling. Even today, I think I read about Alexis that we have finally made a breakthrough with Inter on a 3-year contract. I'm not so sure the reliability of the source, but I've been reading these rumors. I think Jesse Lingard also, now since he's got Mino Raiola as his agent, I think if a good offer comes for Lingard, he will be allowed to go. Same with Andreas. I don't see him staying until and unless we really need him. So I think these departures, if we put it together, piece it together, even if we can get say 10 to 12 million on average for 6 players, that's close to 70 million. We can use that money to fund a signing. That can be used. And the thing is, I think we have had a lot of random numbers being put in the media, like we have 100 million, 150 million, 120 million. So I think Ed Woodward just met this week with the shareholders and the boards to just discuss the budget. So the exact figure hasn't been released. So I'm expecting 4 signings at least. Let's see how it pans out. It depends on the departures as well.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
So in this, obviously from around September to December, Jan period, Manchester United based their attack around Marcus Rashford. So do you see that going forward now with the likes of Pogba and, like you mentioned, and a possible Jadon Sancho as well coming in? Do you feel that Marcus Rashford will still be an integral part of the Manchester United attack?
Definitely. The thing is, I think when you mentioned that September to January period, when we used to go, say, when we went to the Etihad, we played a counter-attacking style of football. We did not have that outlet in Pogba or a Fernandes to supply the ball, and we didn't have Mason Greenwood who can interchange his positions across the field in the front three. So that was we had limitations there. I think Rashford, I think if you've seen him post lockdown, his game has become more as a provider as well. I think after De Bruyne, when I was reading the stat, I think after six
Yeah,
games
yeah, yeah.
post the restart, yeah, he had more passes inside the box after Kevin De Bruyne. So that's a change in emphasis from him. He based his game more on assists, I would say. He runs to the byline and he has a cutback every time. That's his game. He looks for penalties, tries to get a penalty done every time. With Bruno, the thing is, Bruno would be I would say, the leader for making the plays, right? Because if you see him, he's running all around the midfield. He has a free hand role. What helps him out is Martial, Rashford, and Greenwood. They always keep interchanging their positions, so it allows us better movement and better more options there. Rashford definitely he's got an eye for goal. He's had his best season and he's looked his most lethal best. So I would like to see more. I would like to see more from him. Definitely didn't score enough post lockdown, but he was certainly very very dangerous as well. He's just I think remodeled his game a bit.
Okay, guys.
Yep.
This is another hot topic surrounding United, obviously, and that's a huge decision to make for Oli and the board, which is David De Gea or Dean Henderson from Sheffield. You've obviously got an excellent loan prospect who's playing for Sheffield and who've had a magnificent defensive record this season. And obviously, David De Gea has been a sort of on the decline. He's making more errors than he should, and this is probably the best time for United to get any money off him. So, what would your thoughts be on the same? Because Dean Anderson, especially, has stated in the media quite a few times that he would want to keep playing wherever he goes next season, whether be a United or Sheffield again. He wants to play. He doesn't want to come and ride the bench. So, what would your thoughts be on the same?
I think I've made it clear. De Gea, he's just another player. Okay, no matter what he has done in his career past, he cannot just rest on his laurels. He has to be judged on his recent performances, and it has been happening for 2 seasons now. Even last season, he made quite a lot of errors. And if we have Dean Henderson, we are yet to give him a contract. I think the negotiations are going on. So I would like to see Dean being given the number one. Because if De Gea hasn't performed, it doesn't mean that he just keeps on getting that last 5 years or 6 years of his performances. Dean should be given a chance, or otherwise, maybe give him a loan back to Sheffield, maybe, or a club where he can keep on playing, like he plays 30, 35 games a season. I don't want his progress to stop because we potentially have a future England number one and a United number one. So that is a decision. Ideally, I would like to see, I think, Dean being given the number one shirt and David on the bench, just maybe to just shake it up a bit, you know.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Like Dean Anderson is amazing prospect. It's probably like a now or never situation with him. Like if you
Yeah,
pass the boat on him, there's no one stopping him from negotiating with different clubs, especially with teams like Chelsea looking for a new goalkeeper. I think you wouldn't want to sell him to a direct rival. You'd rather give him the chance to prove himself and become your.
Exactly, give him the chance and see where he is going with his progress. How far he has come. This will be a bigger stage for him to perform at, and you know we'll only know it if he's good enough, if he performs and if he plays games. So that's a
Yeah,
good option right now. Just fits into Dean's hands as well, and I think Ole should give him the chance because De Gea has been shaky and it's been going on for a long time.
yeah, but
Um,
I think.
but I don't. I feel a little bit different in terms of Dean Henderson. He has had only one season in the Premier League. He's performed extremely well, no doubt. But I don't. It's. I think it's too soon for him to come and be the United number one because the expectation and the pressure of being the United number one is, I think, at least tenfold of what he is experiencing right now with Sheffield. So I think either he gets more experience. I still think he's inexperienced to be the United number one. But as you all are saying that he should not warm the bench and you all shouldn't stop his potential. So I think the best thing for him now is to probably, since Sheffield are staying in the Premier League, so to go back on one more year loan deal. And if United really want to replace Dyer, I don't think they should replace him with Henderson right now because he's not a finished product for a United team. We should look outside for a replacement, um, but obviously we have a gem on our hand, so I don't think we should. We need to nurture him very carefully and keep his progress on track and keep a check on him constantly.
Bro, I think I disagree a bit. Like, if you're looking to replace David De Gea, I think there's only one name that you should be looking at, and that's Dean Henderson. Like, even though it's just one season in the Premier League, nowadays that's all you need. You need a 1 year break, and you potentially become a 70, 80 million player. Like, sometimes you need to take those gambles because, after all, he's an academy player. He's been with United. He feels the club. He would probably want to play for United more than any other team. And, like, if him working out saves you a lot of money in terms of not investing in another goalkeeper and helps you strengthen other positions, I would always want to trust my own. Like, I think that's the trend forward, sort of like you've always got limited budgets. You would try, promoting as much talent as you can from your academy to provide you the depth as well as a starting spot if possible.
But then again, the scrutiny of a goalkeeper, or if I would say a United goalkeeper, is such that you can't afford to have even one bad game because if you have one bad game, the whole world is watching you. And so I'm not really sure if he's ready to take on that pressure yet. So that's why I'm saying he needs 1, 2 more years of probably Premier League experience to then finally integrate. Finally, we can integrate him with to the United first team. Either, I mean, the best for me, the most logical thing is for him to spend one season with Sheffield more to get used to the Premier League properly. But I mean, the scrutiny and the pressure of being a United goalkeeper is very high. So I think if he can handle it, if Oli feels that he is ready, so I mean, I completely trust the manager. I will accept him with open arms. But this is just what I feel as what I've seen.
Yeah, but then that weight could be expensive, as we've seen from Man City, sort of losing out on Sancho. Like, you never know when Dean Henderson joins another club and you lose out on a potential world-class goalkeeper because you thought he wasn't ready. Because nowadays, I don't think any player ever is ready. Like, whenever you switch clubs, you take a step up. There's always going to be that pressure game. But if you're good enough, you're good enough. Like, you come and you perform. And I think you need to lay that
I'll
trust in your player, gives him confidence.
I'll just add regarding his experience. I think we signed David here when he was about to turn 20. That was a decade back. Right, he's 29 now. So I mean, even he was thrown into the deep end. We saw how he was. I mean, he was fragile on set
I
pieces. He
know,
wasn't convincing.
but he was the
So
only one, Karan, he was the one which Alex. So I think I don't know if you've heard the quote when Sir Alex Ferguson has gone. He's missed a United match only for 2 or 3 reasons.
yeah,
One was
I know that. I know that. I've read that quote, but I'm just saying that if De Gea has got such a long rope to prove himself, I think Dean deserves a season as well right now because either Romero should have been given a chance at the semi-final FA Cup. If he
Yeah,
really
that I
trusted
agree. I was
Romero,
so disappointed. I was
if he
disappointed
really
on this
trusted
one.
Romero, I mean, because his record is what 38 clean sheets in 59 games and 6 clean sheets in 7 Premier League games. That I think as good as it gets in modern football. I mean, so if he's not getting a chance, and that I think puts De Gea into a very sort of complacent mood that I won't be dropped how no matter how bad I am. So he needs to be given that I would say a wake up call that you know you have had a good legacy here, but it doesn't mean that you live on it for your entire career. So
Yeah,
I
that
don't,
I can agree.
yeah. So maybe if Henderson can be given that number one shirt for a season, try him out, give him the chance to prove himself. And I don't think De Gea can really complain that his place will be taken away because he's not had that standard for a couple of seasons now.
So, moving on now, I mean, obviously, Manchester United have had something wrong this season. So, according to y'all, what was the thing which went wrong for Manchester United, and what signings need to be made to, make Man United probably go from the third spot to maybe a second or maybe a first?
For me, it's pretty clear. We need a left-footed centre back that we're all in the market for because we've had Maguire. We've spoken a lot about Maguire this season, but Maguire lacks one critical element, that space. He doesn't have a recovery run in him, and we have seen that. I don't think that the goals we have conceded is a true representation of the defensive problems that we've had. I don't think Lindelof is that convincing in the air. He's prone to mistakes as well. So we need a fast left-sided centre back. I think they've made contact with one of the Lille defenders,
Yeah,
Gabriel,
Gabriel.
who's a
Gabriel, yeah.
left-handed. And I heard today from Mohamed Buhari, I think it's Monaco's Benoit. I don't know his second name properly.
Badiashile, yeah.
Adia Sheila, exactly. So I've heard that he's 6'4" and he's pretty agile. So these are 19, 20-year-old guys. So I think that's what Ole has been looking at. We definitely need Sancho because we have been playing Mata at right wing before this. Greenwood is not a genuine right winger. He's a striker who's been playing there, right? So we need a permanent fix. We need a defensive midfielder. Why? Because Matic is not going to play 40 games a season, and Fred and McTominay are not defensive midfielders. I mean, they don't function well there. We have seen that post lockdown as well.
But
So
isn't
these are
isn't
three.
McTominay a natural CDM sort of player?
No, not
I'll
a
talk
natural
about that.
CDM. I don't find him a natural CDM. I've found him more as a box to box guy. Who can make the defensive runs, and he scored goals, 4 to 5 goals, some good goals. So I don't see him a defensive midfielder. He needs to learn that, and also that we're learning with what Jack Grealish and Van der Beek. That's to add more depth to the side. If Bruno goes off injured, or we need to replace him, say 60 minutes a game, we need someone like a Grealish or a Van der Beek. Because if you that's what I've been reading. Like City, if Bernardo goes, you have guys someone like Amares coming in. You guys Phil Foden coming in.
Yeah.
Sterling can play that role. If Aguero goes, Jesus comes in, right? So if you want to go to that next level, you need to have a starting 11 depth as well. Like so, you will pay that starting 11 money as well. So that's why I think these four signings we need to definitely make this year.
So you feel
So
that you
adding,
need a left-footed centre back, a CDM, a striker, and a right winger. You said.
Yeah. Bro, talking
I
about
I
I would
centre back, I think Nathan Aki would have been a perfect fit to Maguire, and we
Yep.
slowly actually trying to chat him up after
Yeah.
the game, and he's on the verge of joining City. So do you think that's an
No, Ake, I don't know. I was never really convinced with Ake, and I don't know. There were rumors flying that he's available for a cut price 25 million deal. I think Romano tweeted 41 million. So, a guy who's just been relegated. I'm skeptic of spending 40 million of a budget on a guy who's been relegated. City, I think they've obviously needed to rebuild that defense. They need two center backs. Maybe they're paying 41 million just to price him out, cut the competition from the market itself. That's a possibility. Nathan Ake, I wouldn't have been too disappointed if he signed him, but I'm not too disappointed that we have not got him as well. You know, I'm on the fence here right now. So I think there are good options, as more good options there as well. It's not the end of the world with Nathan Ake.
Yeah.
Yeah, so adding to what he said, I mean, the biggest problems this season have been inconsistency, and the first part of season was probably lack of creativity. Like our forwards were pretty
Yeah.
much creating everything for themselves. And as he said about Rashford's change of style, so first Rashford used to be very, very direct at the start. Like he used to cut 2, 3 people, try to shoot and all. But nowadays, yeah, as he said, he's try to make his game more all-round kind of a game. So yeah, I mean lack of creativity, but like January changed that, and inconsistency, which will come with us having a set starting 11. As Karan said, that we spent all the money on building a proper starting 11. So I mean, this window for me is where we strengthen our backup. We strengthen our team
Yeah,
depth.
exactly. Yeah.
So, as I've already said, yeah, I mean, our starting 11s, our best starting 11, which we've used 5 games, it still lacks energy in midfield. Like you see Pogba, Matic, they're not really the ones who, as soon as they lose the ball, they go and get it back. So, I mean, they'll regroup, but they won't as soon as they just go like Liverpool, how Liverpool hunts and packs. So we still need to develop that kind of our that side of our game to our team, because that's probably one of the aspects United was known for in the glory years, having that energy, pace in midfield, like all across the front four. So definitely we need to replace Matic. Matic can still stay around. He is very, very experienced. So he can help the incoming signings and the youngsters to probably integrate into the team. So I would probably personally I would want Declan Rice to come, because he seems like, I know he's linked to Chelsea and he has that Chelsea connection with Mount and
He'll come
probably the
here.
academy. But I would give anything to sign him. I mean, I think he is ready to make the step up to a top 6 team, and he is playing for England. I mean, he is an England international, so he fits every category. He fits all
Yeah.
the boxes for a United player. And as he said, yeah, left-footed centre back Gabriel. I've never not really seen a lot about him, so I wouldn't hype him up a lot. So I'm happy if he comes. Like he'll add the depth to our defense. He'll give us more options on our build-up play and everything. And we definitely need a left back. I think we need a left-footed left back as well, because as we saw, I mean, Karan, I think you must have noticed our since Brandon Williams has come into the team. I mean, defensively he has put in a shift, but he attacking wise he has not had any output
Yeah,
at all.
I made the same point that I don't want Luke Shaw to be the best left back at the club. Because when I
Definitely.
see Shaw in the final third, he doesn't deliver the goods.
But I mean,
His
with him,
crossing is.
we were
I think
having
his
some sort of a attacking.
Yeah, we had that. We saw that with
Yeah,
Williams. When Williams came, there was a clear lack of, there was a clear difference in quality from, especially going
definitely,
forward.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
But what I've read from Ole's, pressers and all of that, where he says that I think he's pretty content with what he has.
yeah. I
Now he
mean,
started playing Fosu Mensah at left back as well. I mean,
right-footed
there's
left back doesn't suit our style of play.
I mean, it doesn't, but I think Ole maybe is thinking that he can still make it work with these two for now, maybe for another window,
Yeah,
and
and
maybe
this is
get
not the priority
other
signing.
targets. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not a
this is
priority
not the
sign.
priority.
That's why.
So yeah, so Sancho is what we need. I hope, God, fingers crossed, he comes. I mean,
Yeah, fingers crossed.
we need depth all around. I mean, as we're saying that we need this, we need that. I mean, you can say that we need a backup in sort of every kind of a department.
Yeah,
So this will come with time, and 1, 2 more windows, we can have a clearer picture of where we are. But as of now, I think we are still far away from challenging personally. And this season, next season, I hope that we give very, very good competition to Man City, to Liverpool, because those two teams are definitely capable of dropping points. And this season, they've not really had any pressure from the traditional top 6, because we've been so inconsistent this season. So I hope that we can build on, and probably it becomes more competitive next season.
So to you, the main problem of Manchester United's dismissal form this season has been the major midfield. So who do you think, name a few players, I mean, name at least 2, 3 players who you think might be the solution to this problem.
So as I think Karan said that when Bruno goes off the pitch, there's no creativity. So yeah, Jack Grealish definitely. I mean, Jack Grealish will be very very good addition. He is a United fan, I think, and he probably knows. So I think a very important part of a signing is that he understands the club history as soon as he comes. Like he should be familiar because ultimately you're playing for the badge, so you should know what it represents. So I think Jack Grealish, in terms of that, is very, very. He'll be a great addition. He'll tick all boxes. And I think I kind of disagree with Karan in terms of McTominay. I think McTominay is naturally a CDM, and box to box. Even I used to think he's a box to box, but he doesn't have. He's not the Paul Scholes or a Roy Keane kind of a player who will have the same influence on both. But I think he's much more defensively solid. And as far as his goals are concerned, we definitely need his goals because we need 5-5. We need all of our players to chip in if we want to be a champion. If we want to be champion side again. So his goals from CDM probably like a Fabinho type of a player who has good long range shooting. So so Scott McTominay I think can probably be Matic's successor, but at the same time, I think our midfield will be strengthened by Jack Grealish and Declan Rice.
And then again, see,
I'll just
yeah,
I'll just say that Declan Rice, I think I've been impressed with him post lockdown. I'm not his biggest fan. I've always, for me, the dream defensive midfield signing will be Wilfred Ndidi. I love that guy. I mean, he's been the leader in what I think tackles and all of this stuff for like 3 or 4 consecutive seasons.
yeah.
But I'm
So
not
if we can
convinced of
price
his.
him out, it would be a good one. See, and I don't understand why we don't go for someone like a Thomas Partey, 50 million release clause, just pay it off.
Yeah.
Pay it off. I mean, you don't get that pedigree that easily for such a price. Right. Why Declan Rice? Again, he's English. He's going to be overpriced. I mean, West Ham had the audacity to ask us what 60 million for Isa Day off. Just imagine for Declan Rice. I mean, again, how much will they ask? At least 70, 75 million.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite
That is a
to price out
so.
the nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah, with Jack Grealish, I would love Jack Grealish for 2 very good reasons. Is he's won the most fouls in the league. That helps us now with Bruno on the dead ball. That gives us another option to score goals. And one, I think his chances created were I think second to De Bruyne, if I'm not wrong. I mean those are pretty good numbers for someone from a side which almost got relegated. So why not Grealish? Maybe Van der Beek as a second resort to Grealish, a little cheaper option. Because even Van der Beek has some good experience now. He was a very important part for Ajax in that Champions League season. But I would say Grealish and if possible Wilfred Ndidi or a Thomas Partey. Ideally I would want these 2 of these 3 players to come in.
Yeah, I think
Karan, what do you think about?
Thing with Grealish is like he's going to command a huge fee, and in that humongous fee, he's not going to walk straight into your starting 11 because of the presence of Pogba and Bruno and sort of how protected they are in that United environment. So, like, do you think Grealish would want to come to sort of ride the bench and be fiddle to Pogba?
I would say on the contrary, he's going to be in a team. He's going to lead a team who's had who was almost relegated. For me, Villa should have been relegated. I mean, they escaped by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah.
He's at this point of his career now. I think he's about 25 or 26 years of age. He's had his breakthrough seasons in the Premier League. He's headlined the Championship as well. I mean, now it is his time to actually, command a place, saying that okay, I'm a worthy successor or I'm a worthy competition to someone like a Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise he's just going to sit in a relegated team or a team which is always going to be in that bottom half of the table.
I'm not talking about him staying at Aston Villa. I'm talking about him going to possible other destinations where he's probably guaranteed a starting spot, like maybe Arsenal, if they can afford. Unlikely, but you never know when they broker a sort of installment deal like they did with Pepe. Like, I mean, I see complications arising in the United deal because of playing time, sort of.
I mean, see, the thing is, I don't think he that Spurs can a team like Spurs can afford him with Daniel Levy.
And
Yeah.
One,
I just need to add that we have Champions League place. So I think if we are in for him, he's not going to go anywhere else. I mean, Champions League is the ultimate.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I don't see another realistic option for Grealish to move
What about Man City?
because I don't think City. I don't know. I'm not so sure. City, I'm
City
not
is
so
a
sure if they want
possibility, to be
to.
honest.
I don't think so. We
Because
would
Sky
go in
Sky
for.
did
I
report
don't think
some
so.
sort of interest from City. I think
Sky will report
I
anything
think
right now.
Sky makes up stories definitely, but then see
I
they
mean, if there's an English player involved, Sky will make a bidding war out of him.
true true.
So I'm just because even when Namra he made a good point of him being a United supporter, that makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. Someone like Maguire moved because he
So,
supports United.
so I don't think that lays any more bearing in modern football. I have seen Chelsea fans in Luke Shaw going to United because he was offered a higher wage. I've seen Nicholas Pepe going to
I
Arsenal,
mean,
and I'm seeing
I
San
mean, if we can give him,
joining.
if we can give him the money, why shouldn't he come? I mean, we've got Champions League football. He will
Yeah,
get his chance definitely.
yeah.
He
But
will
then
definitely get his chance.
yeah, but that would mean that you spend almost 90% of your budget on Sancho and Grealish, and that again,
Again, that's what I say. That's what I say that we don't exactly know the figures that we have right now.
yeah,
It's just conjecture from the media,
it's
right?
obviously
And
conjecture,
the
but
thing
then
is,
yeah, it's always going to be tight given the situation. It's not like
well,
I
we can just see. The thing is, see, that's what I said. If we can't get Grealish, try to get a Van de Beek in then, but slightly
yeah,
cheaper option,
yeah,
maybe in the
But
40, 50 million range.
even if we
yeah,
do get, even if they consume 90% of our budget, I think it's a win. I mean, that's what we need to strengthen. And if we are spending money on that, then might as well. And I
Right.
think
So
if that's 90% of the budget, the rest 10% can be spent on a defender like a Gabriel for 30 million. I mean, I'll be very happy if that happens, just to give more competition in our defense. Because as of now, it's just Lindelof Maguire, Lindelof Maguire. There is Bai is injured forever, and Tuanzebe is very. He's young and he's always injured. So
yeah.
we need more competition in our defensive places
Fair
in
enough.
terms of centre back options.
Yeah. Well, one final question that I have, apart from signings, is that we've seen Oli rapidly change his style of football. Like he's gone from pure defensive counter-attacking to more controlled and possession-based football since Bruno came in. But then again, against Chelsea in the FA Cup final, we saw him sort of sitting back and playing on the counter. Like given the quality of players that you have now and that you're likely to sign, would you cut him any slack if he resorts back to the sort of football that is not exactly very pleasant on the eyes and which is not the football that United should ideally be playing for the coming season?
I I would be disappointed when we went to a back three at Chelsea. I did not understand the reasons why we went for 3-5-2. When I looked at the Chelsea side, honestly, that back four, that back five that Chelsea went in with, they were there for the taking. They're not the
Yeah,
strongest
it's there to be
defense
exploited.
in the league.
Yeah,
There to be exploited, and we played Daniel James as second striker. I mean, that was a baffling move. If you had to play a second striker, play Oda and Igalo, who can at least hold up the ball.
yeah,
So I would be disappointed if we went back to that back three, back five kind of a thing because our first 11 post lockdown. I granted we're not at challenging games like like a City, Liverpool, or say a Chelsea in the league, but we have to test it out. I mean, this best 11 period, we have scored a lot of goals. I think what close to 30, 35 goals in the league post lockdown.
yeah,
So that helps. That helps. I mean, there is some kind of evidence that this will work for us. So there's no real point. Okay, if you want to change a tactic for a special game, say a City or a
yeah,
Liverpool, I can still understand that, but
yeah,
not for other sides. Barring City, Liverpool, we should not be changing it.
yeah. But would you be
I
annoyed
think
if that becomes his go-to tactic whenever you play a big side, like playing the underdog like he has, especially with the players that you're going to sign now? You would probably like even with City and Liverpool. I think if you aiming to go back to the top, I think you need to give up that sort of underdog mentality, which doesn't really suit your history. I feel like you've got to be brave. I think now, especially with the
I
strength.
think I think it's a little bit of a mirage that Ole has made for himself. I didn't expect. I think Ole himself did not expect us to get these kind of results against top six sides. going to the Etihad and winning, going to Stamford Bridge and winning. I don't think Ole thought that would be possible. So
Yeah.
maybe he thinks that it works then, so it will work now. That time we played those formations because we didn't have options. We didn't
Yeah.
have Pogba,
Exactly.
we didn't have Rashford at many times, and Bruno had just joined for the Chelsea game. Before that, he also wasn't there,
Yeah.
right? So he had nothing really to go with a 4-3-3 or say a 4-4-2,
Yeah.
some a different back four formation. So that worked for him. That was a blessing in disguise that it worked that well. But that was a temporary fix. For now, we have got Pogba back, we've got Rashford back, Bruno is in, Sancho should be here, and if we're going to make more signings, they don't. I don't think we really can play a back three. Why? First, because we can't play out the back. We can't. Really, we can't. We were lucky that we didn't get beat against Southampton, West Ham. Chelsea exploited us bad. The midfield pressed us. So these are things that Ole will have to look at. Every time we're not going to get this temporary fix done. So might as well stamp your authority. And with City and Liverpool, you can't really always, you can't always press them.
Yeah.
That's just playing into their hands. So be
Yeah.
smart about it. Your in-game management also now needs to go up a bit.
Fair enough. Yeah.
All right, then, guys, we're done.
Yeah, I think let's just talk about like your sort of predictions for the coming season to wrap it up. Where you
Yeah, cool.
competing in all competitions.
Mm-hmm. Done. 3, 2,
I
1. 1 second. Well, just this, and we'll
Yeah,
ask the
yeah.
question then. So obviously, with these signings and stuff, if you all do make these signings, where do you actually see Manchester United finishing next season? Considering you'll have so many, if you all have 4 competitions to be in, including Champions League. So do you actually expect Manchester United to go a step ahead in all competitions, or probably just a semi-final, final, or quarterfinals? Depends.
Yeah, for me, realistically, 33 points and 18 points is a huge gap to bridge. I'm not saying that, we are going to bridge this gap, with 3 or 4 signings and in 9 months of time. For me, I think I would expect a third place finish, but with a smaller gap. Get it to a single digit gap, maybe. Make it a more realistic, a more competitive league. I would say maybe we can get a cup competition somehow, a cup win, an FA Cup, maybe even the Carabao Cup. Get that. A trophy is better than nothing. You want to win a trophy. I think Champions League, quarterfinal at least. If we get lucky in the quarterfinal, maybe a semi-final. I'm not looking beyond the quarterfinal, but I would like a cup win and that gap to be reduced to at least a single-digit margin.
Yeah.
All right, Vinamra.
Yeah,
What
I
do you?
think whatever he said is the way what I feel, and yes, I mean spot on. I think 33 and 18 is it's a lot too, and third with probably a single digit gap. And yeah, I mean this squad probably now to move to the next step, they need a trophy even. To it's like how Liverpool win anything
Nope.
before the Champions League?
Nope.
They made
So
it to finals at least.
yeah,
Yeah.
so they need that exposure to finals and to big
Yeah,
games.
exactly.
So that's what the next step is. And the next step is to be more consistent in the league. And yeah, as he said, competitive. So yeah, I think a cup win, Champions League also, I'm not going to look beyond the quarterfinals. And I think we have in the past few years, we have a history of struggling in the group stage. So um, I think quarterfinal will be a very good achievement for us. So I'm in Champions League, I'm hoping for a quarterfinal. Carabao, FA Cup probably one of them we should win, and the other probably a semi. And yeah, league, yeah, third place finish.
All right then. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us today for covering Manchester United in depth. Thank you, Karan Bhatia from Man U
Thanks,
Goa,
guys.
for joining us. Big shout out. The link is in the description of their IG. Go check them out. And yeah, thanks you guys for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and you'll see you in the next podcast where we'll probably be covering Chelsea. Bye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.